All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something huge that nearly every big organization tries to do: transform. You know, those massive, ambitious projects that are supposed to change everything. But let's be real. A lot of the time, they just fall flat. We're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to actually get it right.
So let's start with the million-dollar question, right? Why do these enormous, expensive, high-stakes transformations fail so often? You've probably seen it. There's a big kickoff, a ton of buzz, and then it just kind of fizzles out. The org chart changes, sure. The process documents get updated. But that deep, lasting change, it just never seems to stick.
Well, it turns out the answer isn't really in the tech or the strategy documents. It's about the people. The core of the problem is this invisible tug of war happening inside the company, a clash between two very different groups, two hidden tribes that are constantly pulling in opposite directions. Okay, let's get into what this looks like. We're calling it the hidden stalemate. And it's this weird dynamic where you've got one group, the one with all the experience, digging in their heels and resisting the new way of doing things. And at the same time, you've got another group full of energy pushing so hard for change that they just burn out. And that friction is what grinds the whole transformation to a halt. And this brings us to a really critical idea: people transformation. The big takeaway here is that you have to change your people even faster than you change your flowcharts and processes. Think about it. If the human side of the equation can't keep pace with all the structural changes, the whole thing is basically set up to fail. It's all about evolving that human mix first. So, who are these two tribes we're talking about? Let's give them some names. We've got the old guard and the new pioneers. These are the two groups that pretty much always emerge during a big change, and really understanding who they are is the absolute first step to bridging that divide. Now, what's so interesting here is that neither of these groups is the good guy or the bad guy. They're just two sides of the very same coin. On one hand, you have the old guard. These are the keepers of the flame, right? They hold all that deep institutional knowledge. They know how things really get done. And on the other side, you've got the new pioneers. These are the fresh faces, hungry to make an impact and score some quick, visible wins to prove they belong. And this table just lays out where the sparks fly perfectly. Just look at their core drivers. The old guard is all about protecting the company's reputation. The new pioneers, they need to prove their own worth fast. That right there leads to completely conflicting agendas. Or look at the time horizon. The old guard is playing the long game, while the new pioneers are often thinking about their next annual review. And here's a huge one. The old guard has this deep, informal network. The new pioneers don't. Without that political cover from the old guard, the new pioneers' best ideas often get shot down before they even get off the ground. But here's the really cool part. This friction, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. In fact, if you manage it the right way, this conflict is actually a massive opportunity. The whole game is about turning that friction into fusion and creating something way more powerful than either group could ever be on its own. And this is the prize you're shooting for, the hybrid advantage. This is that amazing, powerful combination you get when the old guard's deep institutional memory meets the new pioneer's disruptive, innovative energy. It's literally the best of both worlds. You get stability and innovation working hand in hand. Now that is the engine for real, lasting change. So the mission is to make this strategic shift. You have to move away from this broken state where the old guard just defends the past and the new pioneers just chase after shiny new objects. The goal is to move towards a totally fused organization, one that's built on a shared story that connects the company's reputation directly to its ability to innovate. Suddenly, they're not fighting each other, they're actually supporting each other. Okay, that all sounds great, but how do we actually pull this off? Well, you have to fight on two fronts. You've got to win their hearts, that's the culture piece. And you've got to win their minds, that's the process piece. Let's break down exactly what that means. First up, winning hearts. And this is not about putting up some motivational posters and hoping for the best. This is about designing a culture on purpose. You create what's called a mission culture canvas that totally reframes what motivates everybody. For the old guard, you connect their job security to things they already care about, like measurable improvements in citizen trust. For the new pioneers, you point their incredible energy towards solving big, meaningful problems, giving them a purpose that goes way beyond just hitting a quarterly target. Then, you have to win their minds. This is where you make the change feel real and not just like some abstract idea. You take those big, high-level goals and you break them down into tiny, concrete actions, micro-interventions. And here's the killer move. You create champion pairs, one person from the old guard, one from the new pioneers, and you make them jointly responsible for getting a new tool or process adopted. You track it, you measure it, and you make it impossible to ignore. So, we have the strategy. Now, let's get super practical and turn this into an actual playbook. We've talked about the why and the what. Now, let's talk about the how. Here's a real, actionable plan you can use to put this all into motion. It really boils down to 5 clear steps. First, you map the tribes. You gotta know who's who. Second, you form those mixed old guard and new pioneer squads for quick wins. Third, you set up little learning loops so you can tackle problems as they pop up. Fourth, and this one's huge, you have to reward shared success, not individual heroics. And finally, you check in every quarter to see what's working and what's not, and you adjust. Now, that last step, auditing, is so important because how do you really know if any of this is actually making a difference? You can't just go on gut feelings. You need hard numbers, clear metrics that prove this fusion is actually happening. So here's a fantastic example. You start tracking the percentage of your projects that are co-led by one old guard and one new pioneer. The goal isn't just a small bump. You want to see a massive leap, going from something like 10% to over 80%. That tells you that collaboration isn't just a nice idea anymore. It's becoming the default way you work. And this chart gets at the cultural shift. You can track this with quick, simple surveys. You're looking for a huge jump in the number of your own staff who feel like their daily work is actively bridging the gap between the two groups. This is a direct measure of whether you're actually winning those hearts and minds. And here's maybe the ultimate proof that it's working: what happens outside your walls. When your culture truly transforms, believe me, word gets out. An amazing sign of success is when you see a massive, more than 5-fold increase in job applications, with top talent specifically saying your culture is why they want to join. You've literally become a magnet for great people. So let's wrap this all up. If you remember nothing else, remember this. First, real change is done by people, not to them. Second, you absolutely must create that shared story where reputation and innovation help each other. They don't fight. And finally, never forget that it's the people who are the true engines of change. They're the ones who make all the big abstract goals become a reality. And I want to leave you with this one last thought because it's so important. Real, lasting change is never an accident. It doesn't just happen. It only emerges when you stop just hoping for a great culture and you start intentionally designing and shaping one every single day.